Hello, everybody. Welcome. Glad you're here. Please find a chair. Help yourself to refreshments. And we are anxious to have this program begin with the Admiral. I first met Admiral DePaula, oh gosh, it was probably 15 years ago. Yeah. And I was the Deputy Secretary of DOD, and he was a National Security Advisor, and I was above my station to ask to meet with him, but he treated me so graciously, and I've always noticed that in him, is that he's always been a man that's let the substance of a matter carry the conversation, and it's, I think, what propelled him to the very top in every professional opportunity he's had. And of course, this is a challenge. We were just talking, I asked him, did he enjoy the NATO job? And he said, oh, it was a lot simpler than this one. And I think I can understand that. He's facing daunting challenges. And of course, I've always marveled that somehow the good Lord gives us the right leaders at the right time, and I think that's certainly what we have now with the Admiral. So, Heather, you're going to run this. I just wanted to welcome all of you. Thank you for coming, and thank you. I'm delighted to have you here. Heather, why don't you start this for real?
Well, welcome everyone. I was telling the minister that he has a pretty big fan club, and a lot of people in the audience today I know are the minister's great fans. Again, thank you, Dr. Hamre. My name is Heather Conley. I'm Senior Fellow and Director of the Europe Program here at CSIS, and needless to say, we are absolutely delighted to have Admiral Giampaolo DePaoli, Italian Minister of Defense, with us today. Admiral, when one looks at your distinguished career, it almost becomes clear that the Admiral was intimately involved, if not in most, all of NATO's major milestones for the past 2 decades. Just last November 18th of last year, the Admiral was named Minister of Defense, and prior to his appointment, the so-called easy job, right, he served as chairman of the NATO Military Committee from 2008 to 2011. Prior to that, in 2004, Admiral DePaolo served as the Chief of Defense of the Italian Armed Forces, and he was closely involved in NATO, EU, and coalition operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, the Balkans, and in the Mediterranean. In 2001, he was appointed Secretary General of Defense and National Armaments Director with national responsibilities for some of NATO's most important pooling and sharing initiatives. So in many ways, your resume is the Chicago Summit agenda: Afghanistan, smart defense capabilities, and partnerships. So therefore, we are extremely privileged to have you with us this afternoon to help us not only understand the upcoming NATO summit in Chicago, but I think, as Dr. Hamre mentioned, we really want to hear how you are dealing with, and from a leadership perspective, Italian defense plans, priorities, particularly important Italian peacekeeping missions, whether that's in Kosovo, in Lebanon. Maybe we should talk about future operations, should that be in Syria or elsewhere. I cannot think of a person better placed to help us understand the dynamics of European defense as well as the dynamics within NATO. Please join me and welcome the minister. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. Thank you very much, Dr. Hamre. Thank you to all of you being here. Take your time to stay together for this hour or so that we can discuss together some issue. And I really want to leave to you the time for posing questions, if so wish, so that we have an interchange, which probably is more lively than listening at me. I do see some dear friends, which always write me provoking piece of paper, and I'm really, the topic of this discussion is the way to Chicago, but then I think this is the main issue. In the end, what is going on here from here to Chicago? First of all, in Chicago, who will be there? We don't know, by the French side, which will be an interesting proposition. The summit will take place in the hometown of your president, which some months away from the election, which is another, I think, stimulating thought. So the Chicago summit will be a moment, must be a positive moment, but it's also a moment really of challenging. Honestly, I don't know what will come out of Chicago. Apart, I'm sure Afghanistan, yes. Afghanistan will be prominently the issue of Chicago summit, and I'm reasonably confident that there will be a largely shared view of what needs to be done in Afghanistan and how to deliver also in the post-2014. But the other topic, which fundamentally is to do how to tackle the issue of collective or defense capability or security capability within a fiscal austerity era, that's, I think, will be, I would like to see an initial discussion at political level, because unless we get some top-down direction will not be only bottom-up exercise that will drive us out of this difficult time. Okay, start from Afghanistan. Well, I think the strategy is quite well designed. That we will have a transition leading to 2014, but what is matter will be the post-2014 issue. That's where I think will be the core of the discussion in Chicago. And I know that there is a lot of debate in this country how eventually the post-2014 will look like. I think that what is important is not to repeat the mistake that has been done by others who left the Afghanistan just leaving behind whatever was left there. We need to continue to invest in the Afghan security forces. I think this is the best strategy we have. Hopefully it will be also a successful strategy. We need to invest in the Afghan security forces, because the sense of the overall idea of the transition is them replacing us with our assistance, them in the front line, and they will have to be fully in the front line after also 2014. So the post-ISAF mission will have to be a mission in which, yes, will continue to be a presence to assist, to support them, but also a presence which will invest in governance, will invest in economic development, the transformation decade after the transition period, and also investment in the Afghan security forces, financial support to Afghan security forces. This is an issue that cannot be put aside. When the Soviet left Afghanistan, the Afghanistan army was not that bad, but then eventually, in a couple of years' time, they just disappeared because they had no support. So this is, I think, is a great lesson learned from the past that we don't have to repeat. Therefore, I hope, and I'm reasonably confident, there will be a collective understanding and Chicago that in the post-ISAF environment there will be an international presence. NATO will have a part in this international presence, but the international presence will not only be in terms of physical presence of military people assisting, mentoring, and supporting, but also in the field of financial assistance to Afghan security forces. That is the future. That is fundamentally security-wise. I would dare to say the strategy, the only strategy we have, and we have to invest on them, and then. This will give us a chance, and will give the Afghan people a chance not to go back the situation that was there in the late 90s. So, and I think this strategy, there is largely a consensus on that. So, Chicago will be the defining moment, but I think I see building this. Certainly, Italy is part of this. We are committed to be there. We are committed to stay also in the post-ISAF environment, and we are committed also to provide support along the line that I said. Now, the type, size, and what will be our commitment will be seen at the right moment when the condition will be more finalized, when will be more clear what the post-ISAF will look like. But certainly, we are committed to this. Italy has a large presence in Afghanistan, a very large presence, looking to our forces situation. We are, I think, the fourth largest contributor. We have over 4,200 men over there. And by the way, we are now engaged in a delicate transition phase in the southeastern part of the Western region. Because when you say the West, when you think of Italy, you think Iraq. Actually, Iraq is no longer the focus of our main engagement. Iraq has already transitioned in stage 2. So now the focus of our presence is really in the most delicate area, which are in the north, in Balamurgab, Baghdis province, as in the southeast of the western region, which means Bakwa, Balabaluk, Gulistan, Delaram, area which are from threat point of view, challenge point of view, very much belong to contiguous and actually very similar to the southwestern region, which is Helmand. I remind you, Helmand is bordering Balabaluk, Gulistan, Bakwa, Farah. That's where the challenges are. And as a matter of fact, the action which took place, the pressure which was applied in Helmand, somehow moved some of the nice guy to the northwest. That's mean where the Italians are, and we are. So we are really focusing on that. And therefore, I think it should be recognized that our effort is really an effort in an area of serious challenge and threat, and not just thinking of Iraq as a nice place. But beside Afghanistan, the issue is that in the post-2014, if we look to the post-2014 environment, then the real thinking needs to be done. I know that there are some friends here that have done a lot of thinking what NATO should not do. But in the post-2014, look at this. We will be, for the first time, I suppose, in a post-cold era, and we'll be in a post-operation area. For the first time in 2015, we will be, unless something emerges, because they never say never, we will be short of a major engagement. We are coming out from more than a decade of a continuous engagement for operation by NATO in out-of-area mission, heavily engaged, and that operational drive has been shaping the alliance for the last 15 years. So the alliance has been focused on operation, mostly Afghanistan, but also then became Libya with the OP, Operational Unified Protector. And now, somehow, in the 1st January 2015, we wake up and we discover we are orphan of operation. We are even orphan, hopefully, I saw, of the post-call. So what we do. So that is really the thinking we need to be done. And that's an area which I would like also to listen from you, maybe some provocation, because I know there is some easy discussion with some easy choice. Let's go back to the basic. What does it mean? Let's go back to basic. Let's go back to the Article 5 issue. So we are Article 5. That's it. But now, what really Article 5 mean? I'm not arguing that Article 5, therefore, the defense of our nation is the cornerstone of the alliance. But what does it mean if we go back to sort of Article 5 posture, which somehow means that in Europe, what does it mean Article 5 in Europe? De facto would mean that we select one nation over there as being our enemy nation. And that's, I don't think, would be a great result. That would mean after 20 years, at the end of after 20 years of the fall of Berlin Wall, we go back to a situation in which we pick up a country and say, you are our enemy, and we get in a as somebody defined, waiting to be attacked posture. I think would be really a big failure, because after 20 years, we go back to something that we wanted to spell out and to change. So that means that we need to really to look at what the strategic concept in Lisbon said. And it is true. The strategic concept says that Article 5, therefore, the defense is a cornerstone of the line. Yes, but it says much more than that. If we really want to be honest with ourselves, the strategic concept, which was crafted in Lisbon, in the end, is not the Article 5, the innovative part of it. What was the innovative part of it was the alliance as a global, as a partner, as an alliance which has responsibility much wider than just the Euro-Atlantic theater, whose responsibility go beyond, an alliance which is responsive to the security challenge in the new global security environment, therefore which have somehow global responsibility, which does not mean, when you say you are a global responsibility, does not mean that you will go everywhere in the world because that you are, but mean that you might go everywhere in the world if you so decide, if you so think that that challenge is a challenge which affects you. So the really innovative part of the strategic concept, in my mind, was that consideration that we have a new security environment, which is a globalized security environment. Therefore, we need to be an alliance which is responsive to this globalized security environment, which is also characterized by the new kind of a threat and challenges, and not necessarily an invasion by somebody that maybe will never happen. So therefore, I think under the easy choice, let's go back to the basic, somehow retrenching in the ante-Berlin Wall fall would be a wrong choice, would really mean an easy escape out from the reality of much wider security environment. And therefore, I think it would be more appropriate for NATO to take stock of the fact that we are in a global security environment with the global challenges, and we have to be able to respond to them and to help the international to remain and to be a prominent and relevant security player in this security environment, which does not mean a global COP or whatever, but mean to be a relevant security player in this globalized security environment. And that is much more challenging response. First of all, to build consensus along the, around this idea, and second, also mean to be challenged our defense planning choices that we've done in the past, to get rid of certain old idea, to get rid of some legacy planning idea, to invest in the new capacity, and doing that in a fiscal austerity environment is more challenging, because they need really the real courage to prioritize the right capacity, to invest in this capacity, and to do in a smart way. Because when you have to prioritize and do it, and then make an investment the right way, this is what now come to be known as smart defense. Smart defense cannot be a strategy. Smart defense is a tool. It's a tool by which you want in a fiscal environment, and also if we are not a fiscal austere environment, would be good, because nobody wants to be a stupid defense, I suppose. So therefore, but certainly even more in a fiscal austerity environment, you want to try to be even smarter. I would prefer then to define smarter defense, not smarter defense, by which you come together, how to smartly achieve a certain capability, which you will have properly and correctly prioritized. And because we need to have the bravery and the courage, that's why I say we need a top-down approach. We need to have the bravery and the courage to get rid of the legacy capacity, of the legacy choice we've done in the past, and focus on the new capacity. And that's what I think I would like in Chicago to start a discussion on this at political level. You need really political vision, you need top-down approach on this. It cannot just be some nice, low-hanging project by which through the bottom-up approach, a few nations come together and make nice things. When I think to the list of projects which are in the so-called Smart Defense Initiative, many of them are nice. I don't argue, even useful. I don't argue, but are not certainly the step change that will get us out of this. And then we go to the fundamental issue of European and the European. What the Europeans want to do, because fundamentally, also on this, we need to be honest with ourselves. Smarter defense means Europeans get smarter, because we in the United States, you in the United States, you are already smart enough. Probably somebody would argue, but reasonably speaking, you are smart enough. It's the Europeans that get to get smart. That's what smart defense is all about. And here come to the point of what Europeans want to do. I think that a greater European integration, a greater European coming together in a secure defense policy would be very much instrumental to a greater, to a benefit for the alliance. My point is that under the European idea, is more likely among European countries to muster together resources than under any other banner or pavilion, which does not mean more Europe versus more NATO, mean more Europe for more NATO. If we want to have a stronger NATO, we need to have, I think, more European engagement. The best way to have more European engagement is to try to use the European idea to force this. So I don't see at all, on the contrary, any contradiction on a greater European integration and NATO. Actually, would be exactly what I think a smarter way to achieve what your former Secretary of Defense, Bob Gates, said in his farewell speech to Europe when he said, European, you better wake up, otherwise one day you will discover that we are no longer there. And so therefore, I think we need European to come together with a greater sense of building together our capacity, which will be a fundamental way to be a better partner for the US, and therefore a better member of this alliance, because we speak a lot of burden sharing, but burden sharing fundamentally is for the European to get a greater part of this sharing. And I contend that probably the easier way to do it in Europe among Europeans is to build up on this European idea of a greater European integration. So these are the issues which I think I would like to see coming out of Chicago. An initial reflection. Afghanistan definitely will be the central piece of Chicago. But start to look at how to look what NATO should be in the post-2014, in the post-Afghanistan heavy engagement. That I think is an area which deserves some serious discussion among our leaders, and I hope that this will happen. Thank you very much.
Mr. Minister, thank you so much. There were some very good quotable quotes in that in those remarks. Thank you so much. And I don't think you have anything to fear. Knowing this audience, you're going to get some very provocative questions. Now it's time to bring you into the discussion. Again, just to remind you, this is an on-the-record conversation. And we have a few microphones. If you could wait, and we'll give you those microphones. And if you identify yourself and your affiliation, that would be great. I'm going to take the moderator's prerogative for just a moment and ask a few questions to the minister, and then we'll welcome you to the discussion. I have so many questions. I have a three-parter. Could you give us your reflections on NATO's role in Libya, Operation Unified Protector, as well as the Italian perspective? So much of that operation was a success. So much of it raised very critical issues for NATO and in the capabilities, if you could comment on that. Recently, there was a visit to Moscow where you engaged with the Russians on missile defense. I'd love to hear about those conversations, if you could share that with us, and your own perspective about NATO continuing to work on the European phased adaptive approach and that going forward. And then finally, you met with Secretary Panetta this morning. Talk to us about the U.S.-Italian defense relationship in light of the pivot, in light of America's focus on the Asia-Pacific region. What do you think that means for Europe, for Italy, and for that future of NATO post-Afghanistan?
Easy question, and I will... It's okay. Libya. I think Libya was, from one side, was a successful operation. I'm not talking of the happy ending of what in the end happened in Libya with the Gaddafi out in any sense, including physically out of this world. I mean, what I mean that in the end the alliance was able to muster together rapidly to build a political consensus, which was not so easy at the beginning. For one, even my country at the beginning is well known that had, because of its relation with Libya, had a political problem. But in the end, we overcome that political problem. And in a very short period of time, we decided, the alliance as a whole decided to get engaged. We did a fast planning. We moved all the resources we got, and we moved into it. And even we adopted, because let's be also here speaking spade to spade, because of the U.S. decision to lead him from behind, not to be physically in the prominent role, although they were prominent in many other sense. Even we were able to adopt an ad hoc command structure, which was flexible enough, but fit to the purpose. So this flexibility of the alliance, this flexibility of the military system of the alliance, even if not perfectly shaped for that, is a plus. And that must be an example, because when we talk about command structure, yes, we have to make it leaner, we have to be flexible, we have to be better, but in the end, we have to know that the command structure need to be adapted from any crisis, because each crisis will be different from each other. Each one will request a specific command arrangement. So don't be fixated. That is the command structure, that must be. If you make it flexible enough, and that was the purpose of the command structure review, then you will adapt to any situation, and that's what will be done. That is a plus. The fact that in the end, although with the fundamental support and enabler by the United States, many of the Europeans in the end provide also a lot of capability, because it is true that there were some capacity we know that were fundamentally provided by the US. But in the end, there was some strong European engagement in that, including with significant capability put into place. And therefore, I think this was a show up that when the Europeans want to do it, they can do it. And that was significant. The weakness was that fundamentally, there were certain capability, fundamentally has to do with command and control, with joint intelligence surveillance reconnaissance system, and the famous air-to-air refueling, which were by and large provided by the US. And also the fact that the target capacity, NATO command structure, NATO air command structure, showed to be short of it. Actually lacking, if we want to be honest with ourselves. And this has prompted now a tremendous effort to try to fill this lack also from the European side, that tomorrow in another situation, the European can be a more meaningful partner. It's not irrelevant that Europeans are launching the air-to-air initiative in which they will try to have a greater capacity in this. Many European, Italy for sure is heavily investing in a joint intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance system. So we are focusing ourselves on this new capacity. As for the issue of ballistic missile defense, I think that, in the sense of the discussion that I had with the Russian, Italy had with the Russian, I think ballistic missile defense is something we need to go forward, and Chicago will declare initial interim capability for the alliance. So the Russians have to understand they will not be in a position to spoil this, because we, the ally, including Italy, we are fully committed to this, and that was the message I delivered to the Russian. We believe we have the right and the duty to protect our people and territory from a threat that we perceive as being as serious and potentially even more serious. Therefore, we have the right and the duty to do that. And the European phase approach is a response that we have agreed being the right response for us, taking into account the whole situation. But that does not mean that we want to confront Russia on that. Actually, the Russians should understand seriously that they have an opportunity engaging with NATO on this, to not only to step up our relationship, but also to move this relationship to really a strategic level. That would change, could really become a game changer in the security environment in Europe. So my message to them was, we are serious, you will not derail us, but you can get engaged with us. And I think it is in your interest as in ours to get engaged. So it was a strong message of trying to push them to understand that they better get engaged. And I hope that in time, with patience, we don't have to, neither to provoke them, neither to be provoked from them. I think they can come along and understand that it is in our both interest to do that. As for the relation between Italy and the United States, you know that they are very good. Honestly, they are very good. Not only the new Secretary of Defense is an Italian, by the way. He keeps saying this, so it's not me. He keeps saying he's an Italian. It helps. And he's Calabrese, which is even a special kind of Italian. Well, we say the Calabrese are tough. And you know, in Italy we say they are tough. And they are smart, by the way. Smart and tough, which is the best you can find. But also because I think, you know, that the Americans are reshaping their presence in in Europe, but if you look to the reshaping of their presence, Italy remains as a center of gravity for them. Actually, now with Sigonella will be with the new reality, Sigonella becoming the hub for the joint intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance capacity for the US, for Italy, and for the alliance. I think this is very significant. In Vicenza, you know that the presence will be increased. So overall, if you look to the presence of US in Italy, is increasing, which means you perceive Italy as a strong platform for that, and also Italy as an alliance who deliver. And this is true. Is this true? Italy is an ally who deliver, but Italy is also an ally not only who deliver, but is an ally who want to be listened and want to be engaged, because delivering and engaging is the two faces of the same coin. You cannot expect delivery without engagement, and therefore that is a message I want to be clearly understood in the United States. As for the last part of the question, what about Italy reform? Well, Italy is engaged in a program of restructuring because we are in a fiscal austerity climate. We will not have more resources for defense. We are even lucky if we will not get less of what we already has been got. So therefore, because we believe we need to be fully consistent with our alliance, we need to be fully consistent with what we say in NATO and in Europe, which is fundamentally to have ability to use our forces, to be fully interoperable with our allies, to be able to use them, and to be able to have the right capacity. Then we have to shift money from the dimension of the personnel, which by far are getting too much money in, so that we can, the money that we save from restructuring our quantity, to invest this money in our future, in the capacity, in our operational forces, in the new system, in the new enabler. That's where we want to invest. That's where we are already investing. By the way, I would remind you that in Libya, we have engaged air superiority, air-to-ground, cruise missile, geyser capacity, air-to-air, and guided munition. And by the way, we have also provided the core of the maritime surveillance. So we have been heavily engaged beside hosting in Italy, playing from not only from our allies, but also from our country, and in a smoothless and seamless environment. So therefore, I think we want to continue to be an ally who can have usable forces which can work side by side with our allies. And that is also the response to what you said, how we see the pivoting. Very honestly, I think the pivoting toward Asia, looking from a Washington perspective, makes sense. But this does not mean that pivoting in Asia means less interest for their European allies, for the alliance. Actually, it's an encouragement to the European side of the alliance to do more seriously their part of the job. So I see consistency, and for what is myself is concerned, I'm trying to shape the Italian defense structure in a way that will be able to be a usable and interoperable partner within the alliance, within the European Union.
Hi, thanks very much. Great talk. Vago Muradian from Defense News. Sir, when you mentioned old ideas, old approaches, old platforms, what are some of the systems, capabilities, approaches, and ideas that have to be swept aside to get to a smarter European defense future?
Well, fundamentally, I think we have to sweep aside the idea that we have still fundamentally, in Europe, there is still a lot of a static posture oriented toward defending from an invasion, from an attack. I don't think this is a realistic assumption. I think this is not really what we needed, because in the end, if something happened, even in an Article 5 environment, which is not likely, but you could always say something would happen. In the end, it would be the ability to move forces to the place where there is a threat, So therefore, the ability to move, the ability to deploy. Even if you don't deploy to Afghanistan, you deploy to Estonia. It's still quite. So therefore, the assumption that usable forces, deployable forces, sustainable forces, be they deployed in the eastern or western edge of the transatlantic alliance, or be they in Afghanistan, doesn't change. So we need to have forces which can move rapidly, which can be sustained, which can be usable, which can be interoperable. And then we have to invest much more in situational awareness, in intelligence, and certainly also some kind of asset like precision munition. The reason why we are engaged, for example, in the Joint Strike Fighter project, is exactly because we believe that is a capacity which belongs to the future. There will maybe less number, but much bigger capacity, which allow us to be linked to the front edge of that capacity with the United States and with our member, and that's what I think should be the shifting fundamentally from still too much static posture in Europe to more usable, deployable posture.
Thank you. Marisa Lino from Northrop Grumman. I wonder, I'll ask the obvious question, what your thinking is on Syria, the situation with Turkey considering Article 4, etc. Thank you.
Well, I think that Syria is a serious problem. We have said clearly that we believe that what's going on in Syria is very much worrisome. We strongly believe that Bashar Assad has to eventually to leave, but we believe that now we have to give a chance, a strong chance to the Security Council resolution to move forward and to be implemented. In doing that, we have to do it applying political and also economic pressure on the Syria regime, and that's what is going on. So we don't have to think that necessarily because what we did in Libya can be repeated in Syria. Each case is different. Each case can have its own formula. I don't know which eventually will be the winning formula in Syria. For the time being, I think we need to give the Security Council resolution opportunity to work, and therefore strongly standing behind this. And also, on a case like Syria, I think having Russia along is an important issue, and because Russia has a strong leverage on Syria. Therefore, having Russia along, therefore having a more realistic approach to what can be done, I think would be probably the best way forward. Then, if the situation will not develop in the sense we hope, then what will be, I cannot say at present stage. Certainly, I would not say that there is a mathematical formula. Sometimes they use the question, why is Libya yes and Syria no? I don't think this is a sensible question. The sensible question is that what can we do? How can we approach the Syrian crisis? Each crisis needs to be dealt in its own merit, and there is not one single formula. And Syria, we know, is quite different case than Libya. Not only because there is not a resolution the way we had it, at least now, for the way we had it for Libya, we don't have the same case in Syria. So now I suppose that what we have to do, to apply pressure, continue to pretend that the resolution which has been approved by the Security Council and also with agreement of Syria is being respected, and then eventually create a situation by which internally there will be some change.
Turning to another edge here, say, would be for Iran, and how are the relations, if there are serious relations or not, and how are you planning to both deal with NATO, and we know the importance of it there. And so anyway, that's the sort of basic thing that I'd like to get some movement on that.
Well, Iran, I think there is a process which is ongoing within the 5+1 engagement with Iran. There is a sanction, a heavy sanction, which Italy fully has been part of them. Actually, is probably suffering the price of this sanction more than others. Still, we fully committed to them, because also in the case of Iran, I think we have to give the possibility of this, applying the sanction, political pressure, political unity, and at the same time allowing the 5+1 process to work through. And if I listen to the most recent development, there might be some more positive movement, or at least less negative movement. We will see. So that is, we want to be part, we are part of the effort of the international community. There is no, we cannot, and nobody should singularize himself from the overall effort, which sanction, political unity, and the dialogue 5+1, and to see how to develop from there. So that is the situation. I don't think we have to give. I think the sanctions are working, are starting to work. They will start to bite even further in the future. So possibly this might be, the effect of this might be the more, apparently, more open stand by Iran shown recently. Now, if this open stand will develop in a more positive in a deal, I don't know, but certainly it might be an indication that the sanctions are working, that the unity is working, and the unity include, of course, the 5+1, and we have to stand behind this and not to rush up to some different option at this stage.
Alex, the gentleman right there, the green, and then we'll move over this side.
So, Colonel Stephen Paget, I'm the representative of Supreme Allied Commander Transformation to the Joint Staff in the Pentagon. Do you think that the alliance is doing enough, given the challenges of uncertainty about what to do with post-14 and what to do in the era you described? Do you think it's doing enough to assess those things which it's the alliance's duty to protect, the security interests of its populations and territories, broader than just the Article 5 sort of territorial defense, but to think about, in a global world, where are the security interests? What are they? What sort of threats may manifest themselves? And then from that start point, work out better what we need and how we should do it.
Well, I think we are doing this. We start doing it. If we're doing, if we do enough, I don't know. I would even be doubtful that we're doing enough, because in the end, to do enough, to give enough thinking to what needs to be done, need to recognize what the alliance wants to be, as I said, in the post-2014 environment. If we start from the assumption, which I believe is the right assumption, that we live in a global security environment, and therefore to protect our people, our interest, is to recognize that we are a security organization in a global security environment. If we accept this, then we start to do the thinking. I still see a lot of, or enough desire to retrench, because that is the easy option. Oh, let's retrench, let's go to the basic. It's very nice to say, let's go to the basic, but if the basic mean to be in a Bastiani fortress, I don't know if you know, the desert of Tartars, if that mean going to the basic, I doubtful that that would be good for the alliance.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I'm William Schneider, Defense Science Board, and would be interested in your observations, about, given your remarks about smart defense, how you think Europe's defense industry might most constructively evolve in this environment of an extraordinary public finance crisis.
Well, I think we have to start from the recognition that European industrial base is very much fragmented. Therefore, but at the same time, this fragmentation do represent the interest of the nation. So we have to move forward with the less fragmented, but this cannot be done just by one or two imposing their dominance on the other, because that would immediately cause reaction from the other. Because industry mean interest, mean money, mean employment, mean technology, And unless and until we don't move to more really politically integrated Europe, you cannot. You need to respect the fact that each nation is looking also to its industrial base. So I think we have to move progressively, facilitating merging, facilitating working together, facilitating joint venture, but still be understanding and be respectful of the fact that it's not cannot be just one catch-it-all at the same time as an easy way forward. And then the industry should be supportive of what are the top-down approach of looking at the requirement that the nation need. So I do believe that we need, first of all, the European look at really seriously to what they have to put their money on. And the priority of Europe are not anything different from the priority of NATO. There is not such a thing as, honestly, I don't see something different as Italy has no priority in Europe different from what you have in NATO. So I think the NATO defense planning should be the basis also for the fundamental for European planning. And that's what we have to do, put the money in the right priority, which is the one that will come forward with a forward-looking, outward-looking defense planning. And then the industry, European industry should support this process, coming together, but being respectful of the fact that today we are still a diversified, fragmented market in Europe on this, and therefore this must be a progressive process and not one catch-all approach.
Hi, Mr. Minister. Nice to see you. Mike Costi, recently retired from the Senate Armed Services Committee. I have a question on the MEADS air defense system, particularly in your discussion perhaps today with the Secretary. There is still an ongoing debate in Washington as to how this is going to proceed, and the U.S. Congress has some opinions that are contrary, what I understand, to that of the administration. And Italy, Germany, and the United States are jointly involved in the construction and project development of this. And I understand that your government is not pleased with the directional trend that we see, but could you elaborate a little bit on that, and where do you expect this will go in the course of the next number of months?
Well, the MEADS has been one of the few really collaborative project among European and the United States. We speak a lot about transatlantic cooperation. Then we had a project which was the MEAD, which, by the way, was also responding to the need of participating in the missile defense kind of dimension. And therefore, we get engaged in this. The United States was an important part, but still was 50% of it. The other 50 was between Italy and Germany. That was really a transatlantic cooperation engagement. We have invested money, which for European standard and for Italian standard was very sizable money. And then eventually, at a certain point, you discover that, say, you say, we don't like anymore, we pull out. You can imagine that this is not the way we would like a cooperation to go forward. Sometimes I think the U.S. should be more respectful also of the effort that the allies do when they get engaged in some serious, forward-looking, new capacity, because the MEAD is part, or would be part, of the missile defense approach and European contribution to missile defense. Having said that, clearly, United States is a sovereign country, the Congress is sovereign, and they can decide whatever they want. And it will not be my speech today that will change this fact. But I think there is would be honest. I can even understand that from a Washington point of view, U.S. point of view, you have so many systems, and in the end, for you, the MEAD is one of the many. So in the end, but if this is the case, if this is your choice, then you have at least to respect the engagement that we have taken together, the money we put in them, go to the end of conceptual phase, end of approval concept phase, which at that point you will be free also from a contractual point of view. We, the European partner, can eventually decide if they can go forward. But if we terminate now, you would lift two allies, which have invested heavily on this, really with a hand in front, a hand in the back. I don't think this is fair.
Mr. Defenseman, I'm Tony Capaccio with Bloomberg News. I want to follow up on that. The question is, Congress does not want the Pentagon to spend $800 million on a program that the Italians and Germans are not going to field. There's $400 million in play right now with the fiscal 13 bill. Are you saying that Italy and Germany will not allow the United States to withdraw that financial commitment at this point?
What I'm saying that there is a commitment which has been taken by the three sides together, and each one of the sides should respect the commitment. There is a commitment here, and each side can take its decision. So it's not a matter of we are not pretending. We are asking the U.S. to respect his commitment as we respect ours. Then if we feel that we will feel not, this is another part of the story. We want to be in a position eventually to continue, even if the U.S. don't want to fill the system. We are asking the U.S. to do its part of the deal. The deal is a deal. It's a deal for you, it's a deal for me.
One more question. We'll take one in the back, right there, and the lady in the back.
Hi, Georgiana Cavendish with the State Department. I have a question about post-2014 Afghanistan. Do you think there will be greater transatlantic security collaboration, or do you think it will remain as it is now, or will it decrease? What do you think it will look like on both sides of the Atlantic?
Well, I think that, I hope, because I don't know, I cannot speak, I hope there will be more security cooperation, because in the end we'll be understanding that in the new security environment there is more need to work together, even if the US, globally speaking, will pivot to Asia. The fact of the matter rests that the European partner, which are the NATO partners, still are your strongest partner and ally. So I think it is in the interest of the United States to continue to cultivate this, to nurture this relationship, which, of course, if this relationship, and now we're talking from the European side, look just inside to his belly, that eventually will facilitate even the U.S. looking more, even more, not only pivoting, but also more than pivoting, just shifting, which is a different story. So I think, and the other relevant dimension of the strategic concept was partnership. Partnership is not just being partner, or it's not just a way to have ally that will provide us troops for Afghanistan. Partnership concept which is in the strategic competence is much more than that. Is the recognition that in the global security environment, you need to establish a network of relationship with the partner which go beyond the traditional one, which will allow you, one, to build a network of relationship which eventually might prevent certain crises to happen. And secondly, if this crisis happen, that network of relationship will facilitate your action in the crisis management. If you have a relationship with a country which today are not part of this relationship, for example, if you succeed in establishing a more solid relationship with the country of the Arab Spring, you think that if something happens will be easier or more difficult? First of all, I suppose will not also facilitate to prevent something bad to happen, but also to facilitate action if action need to be taken. And if you look to the Libya, which has been a very easy case, still even that easy case has been taking place because there were 3 or 4 other countries who decided to say yes, if we engage with us. So partnership really matter, but partnership must be a long standing effort since before the crisis erupt. So therefore, global partnership, global networking is the right approach. And that will be meaningful to the United States, will be meaningful to us, will be meaningful to the alliance, will be allow the alliance to retain a significant security role in a globalized security environment.
Well, Mr. Minister, speaking of partners, I can't think of a better partner. Secretary Panetta is very lucky to have you as his counterpart, and we thank the Italian government for their strong partnership. Thank you for helping us better understand the road to Chicago and for your candid insights and comments. I thank the audience. You asked some very tough and very important questions. And now please join me in thanking the Minister for his contributions.